Level 1. The Missing File. It was 3:17 a.m. in Washington, D.C. The FBI building was almost completely silent. Most of the agents had already gone home. Only a few security officers remained inside the evidence division. Then, every light on the third floor suddenly turned red. Security alert. A guard rushed towards the restricted evidence room. The door was still locked. The security system showed no forced entry. But when the door opened, everyone froze. One evidence box was missing. Not money, not weapons, not drugs. A single black case file had disappeared. The label on the empty shelf read, Project Ghost. Within minutes, senior FBI officials arrived. The building was placed under lockdown. Every employee was questioned. Every entrance was checked. Every security camera was reviewed. But there was a problem. For exactly 8 minutes, the security cameras showed nothing. Not static, not darkness. Just an empty hallway, as if nobody had ever been there. At 6:40 a.m., FBI Special Agent Noel Carter arrived. Noel had spent years investigating organized crime and high-level financial cases. He looked at the empty evidence shelf. Then he asked one question. Who knew this file existed? The room became silent. A senior agent answered, almost nobody. Noel looked at the security report. Then why was someone waiting for it? Everyone stared at him. Noel pointed toward the floor, near the evidence room. He had noticed a tiny piece of black paper. There was only one thing written on it. Ghost is awake. Noel took the paper back to his office. He opened the old FBI database. Project Ghost appeared in the system, but the case was marked closed 15 years ago. Noel opened the file. Most of the information had been classified, but one photograph was still accessible. A young man stood beside several FBI agents. Under the photograph was a name, Elias Vane. Status, deceased. Date of death, 15 years ago. Noel stared at the photograph. Something felt wrong. He zoomed in. Behind Elias, there was a wall covered with photographs. One of those photographs showed a building. Noel recognized it immediately. It was the same FBI evidence facility where he was standing now. His phone suddenly rang. Unknown number. Noel answered. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then a calm voice said, "You opened the file." Noel froze. "Who is this?" The voice replied, "Someone who died 15 years ago." The call ended. Noel immediately checked the number. There was no caller ID, no record, nothing. Then his computer screen suddenly turned on by itself. A single message appeared. "Stop looking for Ghost." Noel stared at the screen. Then another message appeared. "Or you'll become part of the case." Noel slowly stood up, because he finally understood. Project Ghost wasn't an old FBI case. It was still active. Level 2. The man who was supposed to be dead. The message on Noel's computer disappeared. But Noel couldn't forget it. Stop looking for Ghost. He immediately printed everything connected to Project Ghost. There were only fragments. 15 years ago, the FBI had investigated a secret criminal network. The investigation ended after the network supposedly collapsed, and the man believed to be its leader, Elias Vane, was declared dead. But Noel wasn't convinced. The next morning, Noel secretly visited an old FBI storage facility. Inside, a forgotten archive box. He found something that wasn't included in the official case file. A handwritten report. The report mentioned a witness who had seen Elias 3 months after his supposed death. Noel's eyes widened. He searched the witness's name. Mara Ellis. Her records had disappeared. No address. No current photograph. Nothing. But one old location remained. A small apartment building in Baltimore. That evening, Noel drove to the building. It looked ordinary. Old brick walls, small balconies, a narrow alley behind it. He knocked on apartment 3B. An elderly woman opened the door. Noel showed his FBI identification. "I'm looking for Mara Ellis." The woman stared at him, then quietly said, "You're 15 years too late." She tried to close the door. Noel stopped her. Did Mara know Elias Vane? The woman's expression changed. She looked frightened. Then she whispered, "She knew him." The woman handed Noel an old envelope. Inside was a photograph. It showed Mara standing beside a much older Elias. But the date written on the back was shocking. 3 months after Elias Vane's reported death. Noel stared at it. Then he noticed something else. A building in the background. He recognized it. It was an abandoned warehouse outside Washington. Noel returned to his car. Before starting the engine, his phone received another message. "You found the photograph." Noel looked around. Nobody was nearby. Another message appeared. "Now find the warehouse." That night, Noel reached the abandoned warehouse. The building was surrounded by weeds and rusted metal fences. He entered carefully. Inside, there was an old desk, a broken computer, and dozens of photographs pinned to a wall. Noel slowly moved closer. The photographs showed FBI agents, government officials, bank executives, and people from Noel's own investigation. Someone had been watching them for years. Then Noel noticed something terrifying. In the center of the wall, there was a fresh photograph. It showed Noel himself, taken only hours earlier. Noel stepped backward. Someone had been following him. Then the warehouse lights suddenly turned on. A voice echoed from the darkness. "You finally found me." Noel turned around. A man stood at the end of the warehouse. His face was hidden in shadow. But Noel recognized the voice. It was the same voice from the phone call. The man slowly stepped forward and whispered, "My name is Elias Vane." Level 3, the Insider. The man stepped into the light. Noel stared at him. It was the face from the 15-year-old photograph, Elias Vane. But he looked older now. Noel raised his FBI identification. "You're supposed to be dead." Elias smiled. "That's exactly what I wanted everyone to believe." Before Noel could ask another question, Elias pointed towards the wall of photographs. "Look carefully." Noel stepped closer. Every person connected to Project Ghost was there. FBI agents, bank executives, government officials. And then Noel noticed something terrifying. Several of the people in the photographs had died under mysterious circumstances over the past 15 years. Elias spoke quietly. Project Ghost never ended. Noel turned toward him. "Then why steal the file?" "Because someone inside the FBI wants to erase the last evidence." Elias handed Noel a small memory card. "Everything you need is on this." Noel looked at it. "Why give it to me?" Elias answered, "Because I can't trust anyone else." Suddenly, a loud crash came from outside. Someone had entered the warehouse. Elias immediately switched off the lights. Noel heard several footsteps. Then a voice echoed through the building. "Noel Carter, step away from Elias." Noel froze. It was an FBI voice, but something felt wrong. Elias whispered, "Don't trust them." The warehouse doors opened. Several armed FBI agents entered. Their leader stepped forward. It was Director Marcus Hale. Noel recognized him immediately. Hale looked at Elias. "You've caused enough damage." Elias laughed. "No. You've caused enough damage." The room became silent. Noel looked between them. Then he understood. They knew each other. Very well. Hale turned toward Noel. "Agent Carter, give me the memory card." Noel didn't move. Hale repeated, "Now." Noel slowly reached into his pocket, but instead of giving him the card, he secretly activated his phone recorder. Hale began explaining. 15 years ago, Project Ghost wasn't created to catch criminals. It was created to monitor a secret financial network operating across several countries. But some powerful people inside the operation became corrupt. They started using the network for themselves. Elias discovered the truth. So they created a fake death record for him. Then they erased the original investigation. But Elias survived, and for 15 years, he secretly collected evidence. Noel looked at the wall. Suddenly, everything made sense. The missing FBI file, the mysterious messages, the photograph, the warehouse. It was all connected. Then Hale noticed Noel's phone. His expression changed. "You recorded everything." Noel smiled. "Yes." Hale immediately ordered his agents to take the phone. But before they could move, every television screen inside the warehouse turned on. Noel's recording was already being transmitted. The conversation was now being broadcast to an external investigation network. Hale realized what had happened. He had exposed himself. Elias looked at Noel. "You finally understand." Noel replied, "Project Ghost wasn't hunting Elias." He looked at Hale. Project Ghost was protecting him. Sirens suddenly echoed outside. Dozens of FBI agents surrounded the warehouse. This time, they weren't there to arrest Elias. They were there for Marcus Hale. Hale slowly lowered his hands. The most powerful secret inside the FBI had finally been exposed. But Noel wasn't finished, because on the memory card, there was one final file. A file labeled Project Ghost, Phase 2. And the first name on it was Noel Carter. Level 4, Phase 2, Final Level. The warehouse was surrounded. Marcus Hale was taken into custody. But Noel couldn't stop thinking about the final file. Project Ghost, Phase 2. And his own name was at the top. Elias looked at Noel. "You finally found out why they chose you." Noel stared at the screen. "Why me?" Elias answered, "Because you're the only agent who never stopped asking questions." Then he opened another encrypted file. Inside were hundreds of FBI case numbers. Different cities, different years, different crimes. But every case had one thing in common. Someone had secretly manipulated the investigation. Noel realized something terrifying. Project Ghost wasn't one operation. It was a hidden network that had been influencing investigations for years. Then, the FBI headquarters received an emergency alert. Multiple classified files were being accessed simultaneously. Someone was trying to erase the remaining evidence. Noel and Elias rushed back to Washington, inside FBI headquarters. Agents were running between offices. Computers were shutting down. Entire databases were disappearing. Noel reached the central investigation room. The main screen displayed. Phase 2 activated. Then a new message appeared. "You found the ghost. Now find the hand." Noel looked at Elias. "Who is the hand?" Elias didn't answer. Instead, he pointed toward the main screen. A live security camera appeared. It showed a person walking through an FBI corridor. The person's face was hidden. But Noel recognized the badge. It belonged to someone with the highest level of access. Noel immediately understood. The mastermind wasn't outside the FBI. The mastermind was still inside. Noel and Elias followed the security footage to a restricted floor. The corridor was empty. At the end, a single office door was open. Inside was a wall covered with photographs. But this time, there were no criminals. There were FBI agents. And in the center was Noel. A red line connected his photograph to dozens of classified cases. Noel stepped closer. Then he found a handwritten note beneath his photograph. He was never the target. Noel turned toward Elias. "What does that mean?" Elias quietly replied, "You're the replacement." Suddenly, the office lights went out. A voice came through the speakers. "Good evening, Agent Carter." Noel froze. The voice continued. "You've spent years hunting criminals. But you never asked who was choosing your targets." The screens turned on. Thousands of case files appeared. Every major investigation Noel had worked on had been selected by the same hidden system. Noel finally understood. The entire investigation had been designed to lead him here. The stolen file, the messages, Elias, the warehouse, even Marcus Hale. Everything had been part of a larger plan. Noel looked at Elias. "Was this all a trap?" Elias smiled. "No. It was an invitation." Then every FBI screen across the building suddenly displayed the same message. "Project Ghost is over." A second message appeared. Project Phantom has begun. Noel stared at the screen. Elias walked towards the exit. Noel followed. Where are you going? Elias stopped. To find the person behind the system. Noel asked, and if we find them? Elias looked back. Then the real investigation begins. Weeks later, the FBI officially reopened Project Ghost. Marcus Hale and several other officials were investigated. The missing evidence was recovered, but the mastermind remained unidentified. Noel kept working. One night, he returned to his office. On his desk was a small black envelope. No sender, no address. Inside was a photograph. It showed Noel standing beside Elias. The photograph had been taken that same day. On the back, only 4 words were written. I'm watching you, Noel. Noel looked towards the dark window. The city was silent. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. A calm voice whispered, Welcome to Project Phantom. The call ended. Noel slowly smiled. Because this time, he wasn't afraid. He was ready.